Welcome to Fitchburg Fire Station number 3. This station was set up to address responses on the northeast side of our city. Ultimately, it serves the entire city, but the practicality of this station was to address expansion into the town of Madison along with the development that's going on in the Uptown and Terra Vista neighborhoods. I will say this, the planning and the design that went into this station was really a no-nonsense fire station. We believe in making something functional. I think you need to have a certain amount of aesthetics, but when it comes down to what this station is ultimately trying to accomplish, it's function over fashion. What you're going to see inside this station are a lot of hardened surfaces, concrete, tile, stainless steel. These are surfaces that we know will stand the test of time. This needs to be a legacy building. This is something that's going to be around for a very long time. We're talking 50 years or plus into the future that people can be responding out of this station. What we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that we were addressing the overall need for the city right now, but trying to do a little bit in the way of prediction as far as what we're going to need in the future. This has a little bit of an edge on our ability to expand, but at the same time, it's taking into consideration the overall outreach that we know is going to take place now. As the city gets bigger, we'll have a lot of decisions on our hands, working with the council, working with our citizens to make sure that what we provide in the future is consistent with the needs of that time. Right now, we've got a very good station that we're about to occupy. We look forward to being able to provide service out of this station and to really reflect the overall need, providing the most good for the most people. That's going to happen with this East Side Firehouse on Cyene Road, station number 3. We're standing in the training room. The training room is actually a multi-purpose room. It's intended to not only be available for fire department training, but it would potentially and is intended to be a polling location as well. We will use this area for different functions that are sponsored by the city or the fire department in order to reach out to the community on a number of different levels. But yeah, intended to not just serve the purpose of a fire department training room, could very well be used in emergency purposes as well. We're in the fitness room. The fire department has placed an importance on readiness in a number of different ways. Physical fitness is one of those. So we needed to accommodate a space that could provide our firefighters, our paramedics through Fitrona, a place where they can work out. In this room, you will have free weights, you'll have a treadmill, a rowing machine, things that not only address the strength of a firefighter, but the cardiovascular fitness of a firefighter. Two important entities when it comes to performing their duties. We're in the day room. The day room is intended to be an area where firefighters, paramedics can relax a little bit throughout the course of the day. Everything in the department is well connected, so when an emergency call comes in, we will know that we need to start making our way to the vehicles. The other benefit of having a room like this is the fact that it allows us, once again, to be able to utilize it in a number of different ways. And one way is training again. Each one of our rooms was really set up to be able to accommodate a number of different activities. Its primary use is going to be for relaxation, but it is what it is. This is a fire department, it's a community entity, and it could very well be used for other purposes. So we want to make sure that our firefighters are in a constant state of readiness. And is there relaxation? Do they sit down occasionally? Absolutely. But that rest relaxation can be interrupted at a moment's notice. I mean, they're not relaxing at home, they're relaxing at work. So when it comes to the time to be ready for response, they're right here, right now, and readily available. But I will say this, the amount of time that they spend in this room as compared to the other things that need to happen through training, through response, through just keeping the vehicles in a ready state, a lot of that is taking place on a day-in, day-out basis. So although this room exists for the purposes of relaxation, this really is not a room that gets used as much as any of the other places in the station. Here we are in the kitchen. The kitchen was designed to be heavier duty. The idea is that this gets used every day, multiple times a day, and we needed to make sure that what we had was rugged enough to be able to accommodate constant use. So it is restaurant quality appliances, and we're taking a look at the things that are going to be placed in this room. So you'll see a lot of stainless surfaces. The firefighters are going to be building their own table, actually 2 tables, so not at the cost of the city. That's something that they're doing on their own. And then there'll be the capabilities in this room to once again expand the work area if needed. So each one of these spaces can accommodate training or some type of breakout session if needed. The locker room was set up to facilitate all firefighters. This was set up to be gender neutral. We really don't know what our workforce is going to look like in the next 20 years, so we didn't want to set it up any specific way or to account for our present day population for firefighters. So everything here in the locker room area is not intended to be private. Each person will have their own locker where they can keep things, but then they will take their items, whatever they're going to be changing into a bathroom area. And each bathroom is set up with a toilet, a sink, and a shower. So it really doesn't matter gender or identification. We can make sure that each person on the department has their own space to change. So the other benefit to this is that, you know, in 20 years out, we don't know what the crew is going to look like. So we can have a whole company come in after a fire and shower, get rid of the stuff that's on their skin that could potentially be carcinogens and affect their health and well-being. And we don't have to anticipate how many men or women are going to be on the crew. Everybody can be treated equally. So yeah, the gender neutral aspect was put into play with this station to accommodate all firefighters. The dormitory area is set up, but we do have firefighters and paramedics that spend the evening. We staff our vehicles 24 hours a day, so the initial response can be covered. That means that we have to have people here over the evening and early morning hours. So each station is set up with dormitories, bunks, a workstation, there's a desk in there, and then each dormitory or each bunk room has its own locker. So those that are assigned to this station can keep their personal items in there without having to bring them with them every time that they work. But all of this is set up within a close proximity to the Apparatus Bay so that we can have quick access to our vehicles. One of the things that we have here in the Fitchburg Fire Department is an intern staff. These are firefighters that have recently graduated high school, have started into the associate degree program, looking for their fire certifications and their licensure as an EMT, basically positioning themselves well for employment in the future. So we do have dormitories on site that they live out of, and it's similar to a college dormitory. So this is where they live 24 hours a day, and then when they're on schedule, they'll report to the station that they've been assigned. But this gives them the opportunity to experience the lifestyle of a firefighter, the schedules that are needed, and some of the dedication that goes into things like training and just job performance in general. So we have had that in place for a number of years. Fitchburg was one of the first fire departments in Wisconsin to actually employ intern staff dating back to the 70s. So it's a proud history of this program, one that we intend on keeping for a while. It just makes sense to indoctrinate somebody to the profession and do it in a way that provides them with the skills to make them a better firefighter. At present, this is set up as the general contractor's office, so the individual that's really responsible for all the different things going on during construction has set this up as their office instead of the job trailer. What this will eventually be is the watch desk. So anytime we have a number of incidents happening either at the same time, or we have people reporting in from off duty in order to see what's going on in the city on a fire response level, they would report here first. This will have our computers, we'll have an idea of what's going on, not only in the city, but in the county. Our radios will be in here, charge stations will be in here, and this becomes sort of a collection point for those that are just looking for an assignment. We're in the open office area. This is going to have cubicle space. Firefighters, paramedics are going to have their computers here. We will have a print station, mail area. Ultimately, this is where the documentation takes place. The supervisor's offices will be off to the side, and the conference room is also in close proximity. They do spend a lot of their time in this area throughout the course of the day because there's not only a lot of the hands-on stuff that's needed, but also some of the other things that involve narratives, documentation, making sure that we do keep track of our training. That way, if it's ever called into question as far as what we do, we have that available to anybody that's inquiring about our readiness. The conference room is designed to set up a private workspace outside of the open office area. It's also set up for training. We will do our morning briefings over video conferencing, likely to happen out of this room. We will have the ability, once again, to train not only fire but EMS. And this then becomes a good place for a smaller meeting, one that doesn't necessarily need the entire training room. So one of the things that we did in the station that we really pride ourselves on is trying to predict what's going to be needed, not only from a living standpoint, but a training standpoint. This is a storage room, and in the storage room, we've actually planned an access area, a manhole cover, if you will, that allows us to go from the second floor to the first floor to the basement. And what this does is allows us to practice some of our technical rescue skills, rope skills, confined space. So that was an important concept for us to employ in the design of this station, because it does really account for what we do in the times that we're not actually responding on emergencies. Training is a huge feature in this station and in our concepts in general. We're in the basement of the fire station. It's not a very big space, but it's intended to accommodate a number of different things, storage, shelter, and training. This is where the manhole from the first floor actually terminates into the lower level. And then we will be able to build a number of props down here that we've already had at our other stations. The good news is this is once again a space that was considered to be used for multiple purposes. Trying to use our space efficiently and to address the overall need, not only within the short-term future, but the long-term. And that's where we were at when we discussed what we were going to use the basement for. One of the things that we also wanted to do, we wanted to make sure that we had a staircase that could also accommodate training. Whenever we deal with hose packs or advancing a hose line from one level to another, we need to be able to address certain theories and practices that exist in the fire service, and to be able to actually use something that is fortified and actually has a better chance of wearing well, the better we can actually do our training without damaging other things. Quick movements are not always conducive to preserving the overall aesthetics. So the staircase that leads from the upper story mezzanine to the first floor to the basement is all rugged, it's concrete, it's metal. We really don't have to worry too much about damaging it. Here we are in the Apparatus Bay. You can see we're getting close to occupancy. Most of what we have inside of the building is ready to work out. With the Apparatus Bay, we will have ambulances, we will have fire engines, we'll have anything that we have at our Fire Station 1 right now on Lacey Road will be positioned out here. Once again, a functional space, something that can be used for a number of different things, not only our response, but training. And because we train regularly, this becomes a great place to be able to facilitate certain drills that we will use. So regardless of temperature or weather, we can participate in training on a regular basis. Growth is considered in the initial design, and we have to figure out what growth looks like in the fire department. So if our growth means that we just want to add on capable and available personnel at an existing location, well then that means that we have to address the bunk space. But ultimately, I think as the city of Fitchburg grows, we need to see where it's growing, because we may, in the future, have to identify growth in the way of where we're going to place stations. The idea behind the placement of fire apparatus, ambulances, really revolves around response time. So how closely and how quickly we can get on scene, and that's primarily what our expansion would look like. Do we fortify and upstaff an area that already exists based on what we're seeing out of that location? Or do we build another station in a different location? As the city gets bigger, we'll know those answers, but right now this allows us to expand a little bit, and then we have to consider the other factors that would provide us with more information as far as what growth looks like. The other thing that we have to take into consideration with expansion is how much room we need. So as we get larger, the need for large stations like this really become less frequent. You need larger stations for storage, for training, for all those things. But when we start addressing additional fire stations for response purposes, we're talking about maybe staffing a vehicle with a number of people. So the stations really don't need to be as big. They need to address what their primary purpose is, and that's response. They would likely have to relocate when it comes to training. So if there's training that comes up, they would leave their area of response to be able to attend that training, and then a majority of their day they'd be in district ready for response. So it's all a matter of what you're trying to accomplish, and if it's a matter of accomplishing things like training and storage and administration, well, then those stations need to be the size that they are. When you're talking about response, you're talking about response times and appropriately locating assets, so it would probably have to accommodate one, if not two vehicles.